Hey guys, welcome to the video tutorials of codeandtest.com. In this video we'll see what functional testing is. Functional testing is testing in which functionalities of a software are tested by giving different inputs. Okay, functionalities of software are tested by giving different inputs. I'll explain you with an example. But before that, let me tell you, functional testing involves four steps. First one is identifying how a functionality is expected to behave. And the next step is creating input data to check the functionality based on the requirements. Okay, and the third one is executing the prepared test cases. And the final one is comparing actual results with the expected results. Okay, functional testing involves four steps. These are the four steps. Now let's take an example. What we have here is name text box, email text box, and two buttons. One is save and one is reset. Okay, let's assume we are testing the functionality of save button. Okay, we are testing the functionality of this save button, and name should accept alphabets. Okay, and email should accept valid email format. Okay, here is one example for name should accept alphabets, so example for that is Valentino, and email should accept a valid email format, and example for that is val@gmail.com. Okay, well, you know what a valid email format is, isn't it? So name should accept alphabets and email should accept valid email format. All right. So like I said before, functionality testing involves four things. Let's check the first one: identifying how a functionality is expected to behave. Okay, in our case we are testing the functionality of save button. So when valid values are entered in name and valid values are entered in email and save button is clicked, the details should be saved in the database, isn't it? And when invalid values are entered in one of the fields or both the fields and save button is pressed or clicked, a pop-up should appear asking the user to enter valid information. Okay, or the system should prompt the user to enter valid information, isn't it? That's our save button functionality. That is how it's expected to behave, isn't it? We identified its behavior. So the first step is done, which was identifying how a functionality is expected to behave. Now let's go to the next step, which is creating input data. Okay, here both valid and invalid data is created for name and email fields. All right, here we have two fields, name and email. Okay, name and valid data for name is Valentino is one valid data and Steve is one. Okay, value, to say valid value, Valentino is one valid value and Steve is one valid value for name. And invalid values are Carlito 1 2 3 or this string with special characters and this numbers 7 8 9 7. So these are just a few of the examples of invalid data for our field name. And for email, valid data is al56@gmail.com and disco@something.com. Okay, and invalid data for email is al@com or tiger or 123.com. Okay, these three values are not in a valid email format, isn't it? So it's invalid for our email. So that's how we created our valid and invalid data. So we are done with the second step, which was creating input data. Now the third step is execution of test cases. We can use the test data prepared to test the functionality of save button. Okay, here are some of the test cases. Okay, the first test case is valid data or valid values in name and valid values in email fields. Okay, it is valid in both name and email fields, and the test step is enter Valentino in name, enter al56@gmail.com in email, and click save button. Okay, these are the test steps, and the expected result for this is the system should save the data in the database. Okay, I hope this test case is very clear and understood. Okay, and the next test case is valid in name and invalid in email. Okay, I just wrote valid in name and valid in email. This is actually is valid values in name and invalid values in email. Okay, which is understood, I guess. So the next test case is valid in name and invalid in email. Okay, test steps are enter Valentino in name because we are entering a valid value in name. Okay, and the next step is enter 5678 in email. We are entering invalid value in email, and we are clicking save button. Okay, and the expected result for this is system should prompt the user to enter valid values. Okay, and of course the data and the details should not be stored in the database. Okay, that's our expected result. And the third test case is invalid values in name and valid values in email. Okay, these are the test steps for that, and the expected result is same as above. Okay, system should prompt the user to enter valid values. Okay, and the fourth test case here is invalid values in name and invalid values in email. Okay, invalid values in both the fields. Okay, and these are the test steps. We are entering invalid values in name field and invalid values in email field and clicking save button. Okay, and the expected result is system should prompt the user to enter valid values. Okay, so I hope these test cases are understood, and we execute these test cases. Okay, that is our third step in functional testing. Alright, we prepared test cases and we execute them. Alright, and finally the fourth step, comparing the actual results and the expected results. Okay, in our case the expected results are these. Okay, for the first test case, when valid values are entered in name field and valid values are entered in email field and save button is clicked or pressed, the value should be saved in the database. Okay, should save the data in the database. That's our expected result. Okay, and for the next three test cases, that is when invalid values are entered in either one of them or both of them. Okay, data should not be saved in the database, and system should prompt the user to enter valid values. That's our expected result, isn't it? So we execute these test cases, we find what the actual results are. Okay, for example, here in the first test case we enter Valentino in name field and we enter al56@gmail.com in email field and we click save button. Okay, and we check whether these values are saved in the database or not. If they are saved, the actual result is same as expected result, isn't it? If not, we raise a defect because here expected result does not match the actual result, isn't it? So we raise a defect. Similarly, for the next 3 test cases, we do the same thing. Okay, we compare the actual result with the expected result. Okay, when actual results does not match the expected results, defect is raised. Okay, so that's about functional testing. I hope it's very clear. So in functional testing, we have 4 steps. These are the 4 steps. First one is identifying how a functionality is expected to behave, creating input data to check the functionality based on the requirements, and executing the prepared test cases. And the final one is comparing actual results with the expected results. Alright, so those are the steps involved in functional testing. So thank you so much for watching the video.